video that I've been trying to do for probably about a month and a half now, and I appreciate you guys' patience, but we're finally going to be doing a Q&A video answering your guys' amazing questions that you've left both here on YouTube as well as in my DMs on Instagram. So I put together a bunch of random questions, not in any particular order, but what I invite you to do before we get into the video, which I'm going to try and keep as short as possible while still elaborating on every question that I got, is I want to invite you to not only like and subscribe, but also drop any more questions you have in the comment section below, because I'm going to come back to this video in probably 30 days and choose a bunch more questions for the next video. I want this to kind of be like a monthly thing. I think that would be a lot of fun. So this is going to be all things e-commerce, a little bit of personal, trying to keep it more so on the business and productive side, just because it might not be as interesting, but that is what's going to benefit everyone more at the end of the day. So we're going to talk about everything from a wide variety. If questions arise on top of the questions that we're already answering, if you see some Facebook ads and maybe it sparks a question, drop it down below. Not only do I reply to a ton of comments in the comment section, but I could also pick it from the next video, okay? So that being said, make sure to smash the like button. Let's try and break 1,000 likes. I would greatly appreciate it. And let's get into number one. I'm gonna start throwing up screenshots so you guys can kind of see who it was from. Dia, it's a really cool name by the way. How many ad creatives are you testing? This is a great question. She or he is talking about Facebook ads. It really depends. When I'm first starting, usually just 1 or 2. However, the larger amount of volume that I'm doing in sales and the longer I've been doing it for, the more I will run, okay? So as you see, I replied to this. I wish I took a screenshot of my reply, but I basically said, for an example, on a store of mine doing about $1 million a month in sales, we're reaching a ridiculous amount of people. So you have to keep it fresh. So I probably have a total of 25 to 35 creatives running on there, right? And it's just constantly new ones being cycled in. So it really depends, but as you're starting to get to a couple thousand a day, there's profit coming in, reinvest into more creatives because that's always going to help you out further. All right, Chris said a great question here, again, getting a little more in depth, talking about having an e-commerce store that's doing about $6,000 to $10,000 a day in sales. Great job, Chris. He says for about 2 months, but now his interests aren't working anymore, but the lookalikes are. That's basically the gist. He's asking why it happened. Great question. The reason I put this in here, even though it's a little bit more in depth, this is something that's so valid, and I don't know if I've entirely answered, but the most simple answer that I could give you is your audience sizing. So your lookalikes are super targeted. They're geo-targeted. They are customer and purchase behavior targeted on the people who've already purchased your product. Now, interest might be an interest group of 10 million people, but you can burn through an interest of 10 million much quicker than you can an LLA for 10 million. So what I would recommend you do is, first of all, find more interest. There's always more interest to run. Definitely focus more of your time and attention on lookalikes, because when you're running the higher percentages, 7, 8, 9, they're huge audiences, up to hundreds of millions of people. And then let those interests cool off. Don't run them for a few months. Come back to them. They will probably work again. He said even if he launches new creatives, well, you've probably burned through the audience. So I would just let it chill, let it calm down for a little bit, and then relaunch those interests. But you should be focusing more of your attention anyways onto your lookalikes. Vice said, my question is, if you had around $1,000, how would you use that money or not to make more of it? Great question. With $1,000, you are at the end of the day very limited. So what I would do is I would be working a part-time job. I would do anything I can to maybe get $1,000 per month coming in, and I would slowly use that money to learn a business model or something that doesn't take a whole lot of money to start. Make sure it's the right thing for you. For an example, e-commerce is not the right thing for everybody. $1,000 you might be able to scrape by and make it work if you run it really slowly and just test and kind of nail a product on one of your first or second tries. But you're gonna want other money, So at $1,000, you have $1,000. It's not a lot of money. I remember when it was, but 1,000 can only get you so far. So I would just invest a lot of that into learning and testing so you get familiar with whatever you're doing, and then keep making more money to just dump back into it, and usually something will work. Another Facebook ads question, which seems to be the main topic on hand today, which is okay, and there's others. Highlights said, when you scale, do you kill the lower budget campaigns? We're not going to get into the other stuff he said, just kind of breaking it down, but the simple answer is no. If it's still working, I don't. Now it's funny because one of my 2 Facebook assigned advertising reps said whenever you duplicate something, kill the original. And if I did that, I would be making a whole lot less money. And so everything on Facebook is ad account by ad account. It's kind of your own opinion, your own strategy, what you've come up with. But I do not kill something. The only reason I would duplicate it and raise the budget is if it was working. So why would I turn off something that's working? You probably don't have to deal with audience overlap. Even if you're like, I've launched stuff that's spending $5,000 a day, a CBO, and I've doubled it. So now you have 5,000 a day and 10. But if the audience is massive, it doesn't matter. So I would just keep your eye on it. If it, for whatever reason, becomes unprofitable, then yes, you could kill it. But if something's profitable, no, I would not kill it. A great Facebook question from Connie talked about, would you recommend using carousel ads for your Facebook advertisements, or do you stick to the usual way? So a carousel is a great way to determine which creative, primarily which picture, but which creative is going to work the best. So instead of showing one picture or one video to a customer, you can show them a sequence of maybe 5 or 6. You can do up to 10. And so Facebook's automated learning algorithm is going to determine which one has generated the best results. They'll start putting that one first. You can see the results and then just kind of go based on that. So I would always recommend, if you have multiple creatives, that's kind of the if factor. If you have multiple creatives, run a carousel. Duplicate something that's working so you don't have skewed data. Duplicate it and add in all these other creatives and then see which one works from there. That's definitely something that will help you out a lot, Connie. Next question from Robert, another Facebook one. So CBO isn't the best way to start. If you guys did not see my video, I think it was the last video on the channel, talking about scaling ads. I talk about what I do when I start. I believe it was in that video I mentioned it. I still try to stick more so to ad sets. That's not saying you can't start with CBOs. I still do in some situations. It just depends on how much money you want to spend. I feel like your CBOs can work just fine, but you're going to spend a lot more capital right away if you're testing both. So I'd rather run 5 $20 a day ad sets than one CBO at $100 with 3 ad sets inside of it when I'm first testing, because I want diversity. I want to see if anything's going to work for a new product that I'm testing. So Robert, I would definitely recommend doing whatever works for you, but it doesn't mean that one way is better. Like he said, I'll change ASAP if that's the case, but don't change what you're doing. If it's working, stick with that strategy. He also said, when is the next video with my grandpa coming? And how has he been? He's been doing great. Thank you for asking, Robert. I haven't seen him in a little while just because of all the quarantine stuff going on, and he's also back home where I grew up in another state. So hopefully making a trip up there this summer, maybe over the 4th of July, and I'm sure he'll end up in a video. He's always kind of the hilarious star of any video, and yeah, he's been enjoying his new car. So having a lot of fun up there. I think he might have gotten another speeding ticket or something, which is just hilarious. So there's that. Kevin with a great question, another Facebook one. How long does it take for Facebook to raise the $50 cap limit? And do you need to have your business verified on Facebook to do it? I like putting in all these Facebook questions because I get them so frequently. So Facebook oftentimes has spending limits. If it's a new Facebook profile, a personal account, you'll usually end up with a $50 a day spending limit on an ad account. So realize that Facebook, as long as you're not missing payments, they're not sending you errors, everything is going through and you're hitting that $50 exactly, meaning you're trying to spend more than 50, but it's only letting you spend exactly 50. Well, after usually 7 days, they're gonna raise it. Now, usually Facebook goes slow. They'll raise from like 50 to 350 to 500, and they'll go slow, but you can request a raise. If you've been at 50 a day for 3, 4, 5 days, you could reach out to Facebook support and request 500 or something. But if you're at 50, you kind of have to warm up the ad account. It's super new. So they might not try and just jump and give you access to big spending. But if you're starting at 350, I'll request like $5,000 a day. So I've talked about that. I'll go from 350 to 5,000 to 15,000, and then it's by twos. So it's kind of weird. It's like the first one is a 3x. I'll go from 5,000 a day to 15, and then 30, 60, 120, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just double. And usually you have much higher approval odds with that. So Kevin, that's a great way. And no, you don't have to have your business verified to increase the spending limit. Now, it's a great thing to do because it can help you, especially if you get in a pickle where you have your ad account disabled, but it's not necessary. I've had ad accounts with $60,000 a day spending limits. I still have it. $60,000 a day spending limit, spending about 30 to 35 of it, and the business manager was not verified. I was just lazy. So you don't need that. No, that's not going to be the determining factor on if you're going to get it verified. Okay. So Minty Mitos Q&A, really random, a good question. What is your opinion on drugs and the work? For example, smoking weed and doing drop shipping. Do you have any personal experiences as well? This is a subject I have strayed away from a little bit. I usually don't talk about it, but I've been very open in the past. I do not smoke. I do not smoke at all. I don't enjoy that. Never got into it. I don't do any form of drugs. I mean, in the worst case scenario, if I was in pain, I might take an Advil. You know, that's about it for me. However, to answer your question from my perspective, I have friends that live and breathe smoking weed. You know, that for them is like they can't function without it. And that's what scared me, is you should never depend on a substance. They think that whether it's true or not, they believe that they focus more using it. A lot of my friends use like these fancy new wax pens. I mean, like everyone I know has one. So I don't know. In my opinion, I mean, I know people who make millions of dollars a month and they smoke ample amounts of weed. So, you know what, as long as you get your work done and you're making money, who gives a shit what anyone else says? You know, I mean, if you want to do that and you have a system, a moderation of some sort, or if you can just be blazed all day and still get your work done, then more props to you. You know, go have fun. Just, you know, focus on your priorities. Figure out where your priority is and then make it happen. All right. So the next one from AJ Hill: how long or how much do you spend on a product when first testing before you ditch it? This is not just Facebook related, with any marketing platform. Now, I really only use Facebook. That's where I determine if a product works. So from my perspective, which is kind of the only way I can answer this, it usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks. You know, spending $50 to $100 a day. I'll kind of be able to tell within like 10, 15 days if it's not working, but I'll usually cut it off within 15 to 20 days if it's not working. Okay, so that's kind of for me. Now, you do have those products that screw with you. Those products that, you know, they might be right at break even or slightly unprofitable, and you're just like, okay, you're validating it. You're like, I'm just going to build data. Let me get to lookalikes. I'll lose a little bit. And sometimes they never turn around and optimize. You have to be willing to chop it off at some point if it's just not working. So make that decision. Sing224 said, how do you pump out different ad creatives in an active CBO campaign where the ad set's inactive? Won't that put it into the learning phase? Great question. I do not. I'm sorry, I should have made this more clear. I never add a new creative. When I'm launching a new picture or a video ad for one of my e-commerce brands on Facebook, I don't add that into something that's already running. I only launch that creative via a duplicate. So I'll duplicate what's working, run it with the new creative, and that's what lets me know if it's going to work better or worse, because I see those results in comparison to the original one with a different creative. So that's kind of how you test it. Next question, tech. How many legal entities do you have and how do you manage them? Good question. LLC, which is kind of the main thing. I usually have LLCs and I file for taxes as an S Corp. LLCs, probably 5 or 6. Management-wise, there's very little. The only real management component to it is your taxes, which I don't do. You know, I have someone else. Not that I don't do taxes. I have someone whose job is to do my taxes. You know, I hire a CPA. I have them do it. They do great work. I do like to go through the numbers a lot myself. I also have a full-time accountant on payroll, so she works with me in my office. She barely comes to the office because she can do it all remote. She does a great job doing all the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I love looking at stuff. So just kind of keeping track of all the numbers, making sure we know exactly what's what, and then we can basically do our own books in-house in the office and then give it to the CPA, which saves a lot of time, money, and headache at the end of the year by having to have some sort of CPA firm go through all your numbers, which is what I usually see most people doing. And I used to do it. It's not a problem. It's not like one way is better, but it works better for me having, you know, experts do that, and that's their focus. I mean, you know, I go through everything from lawsuits, you know, dealing with you know, annoying stuff with taxes, annoying stuff with LLC filings, and taking. I mean, I'm still waiting on an LLC. It's probably been about 1.5 years from LegalZoom, which is why I don't use LegalZoom anymore. I filed an LLC with them. I paid for expedited delivery. It should have been there in 2 weeks. It's been 1.5 years. They won't refund me. Not that it matters much, but it's just kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, the management side of things doesn't take a lot of time, but yeah, I definitely use multiple legal entities, different e-commerce companies, different companies, my real estate holding company, all sorts of different things. Okay, and that's a totally separate topic. Like, that'd be a whole video talking about taxes, all that stuff, the legal entities. I don't really get into that because it's so different for everyone. Ion Prodas, I hope I said that right, said, this is a great question. Do you think that selling a product that has done $500,000, I would assume in revenue, for someone can work? Well, in theory, if it's worked for someone else, that means there is a market for it. However, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. However, that shouldn't discourage you from testing it. I am never one to try and rip off products from someone, so if you're trying to do it in like a sleazy way, you know, up to you. But if you see it working for someone, just understand that you can't be married to that product. It's the same thing as anything else. I always say don't be married to your product. Like we said earlier, be willing to cut it off at some point. Just because someone else has done it doesn't mean it'll work for you. For an example, one of my e-commerce brands that I've been running for about a year and a half, that does about $1 million to $2 million a month in sales. It's a boring product. It's not like a viral type product. Like I couldn't run it on TikTok and make money. It's not viral. It's a very boring product. It's a necessity. What am I saying? It's a necessity. But I built a brand around it. So if someone else were to try and run that product, and I've seen people do it, everyone tries to steal my products whenever they figure it out, and even friends. So it won't work for them. They might make a slight bit of money, but they're never like even anywhere near a 2 ROAS, So they're very usually not profitable. So I would caution you in believing that it can work for you just because it's worked for someone else. Every ad account is so different. Everything is always different. But I mean, if you've seen it work for someone, don't hesitate to try it, And then the final question from Lou Lucas Life. It's a great question. I wanted to save this for the end for the people who stuck through to this. And if you're under 18, this might help you a lot because this is a situation I was in. Lucas asked, if you were underaged, under 18, your parents wouldn't help you start your own store and you have no one else that could help you, what would you do? He said that his parents are scared he might get sued and also his grades aren't the best, so they don't think he'd be capable of doing it. Don't try and argue with them because you're not going to win that argument of how grades have nothing to do with business and this and that. You're going to run in circles. Don't bother doing it. I would find someone who can do it for you. It can't possibly be that hard to find someone. It could be a neighbor, it could be a distant family member, it could be someone at school who's old enough, a friend, anyone who's over 18 to open whatever you need. So for me, I know we answered the question about my grandpa. My grandpa was the one who was willing to co-sign. And he didn't give me money, he co-signed simply on my business, legally, because I wasn't 18, I was like 16 or 15. And I told him one day when I make X amount of money, I'll buy him a car, and I did. So for me, that was one of the most awesome things. There's always a way to do it. What he did is allowed me to basically open my legal entity, not for the purpose of taxes, but for the purpose of being able to open a bank account that my parents couldn't see, and then I could get a debit card. So for 2 to 3 years, I ran all my expenses, all my ad spend and everything on a debit card. I was also stashing money in there and making money in my business, and my parents had no idea. So there's always a way to do it. You're not alone in that. I went through the same situation. You just have to be resourceful. You have to be creative. I don't know how old you are. You didn't mention it. I'm going to assume, let's say you're 16. You don't waste 2 years just waiting to do it. Figure out a way to get started. It's definitely possible. So that one's definitely personal to me. I've been there. So I hope you guys enjoyed these questions. Again, if you have any more about any topic whatsoever, I know we kind of touched on the trifecta here. Business, money, personal, even drugs. So I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate it if you smashed a like down below. Again, if this gets over 1,000 likes, I will start doing this every month. So we can just kind of do like a monthly thing, and I'll check back on this video. So if you have questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section down below. If I don't answer you in the next video, you'll most likely be getting a reply in the comment section directly. So hope you enjoyed. That being said, take this, run with it, whatever you want to do. Hope you have an amazing day, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace.